When the name Leah Martin resurfaced in the conversation surrounding IHRA's latest controversy, the motorsports world stopped and listened. Because nobody had more reason to stay silent, and nobody had more credibility when they chose not to. What she said next is something the entire industry needs to hear. For weeks, the controversy surrounding the International Hot Rod Association had been growing louder with each passing day, drawing sharp criticism from racers, track owners, sponsors, and staff members who felt they deserved answers that simply weren't coming. Into that charged and emotionally raw environment, Leah Martin, the former IHRA president and the first female president in all of motorsports history, made the deliberate decision to step forward and share her perspective publicly. It was not a decision made carelessly, and the weight of every word she chose reflected the seriousness with which she approached the moment. Her statement was lengthy, personal, and unmistakably honest in a way that immediately separated it from the kind of carefully managed public relations messaging the industry often produces in moments of crisis. She acknowledged the frustration of the people affected, validated their right to be angry, and made clear from the very opening of her remarks that she was not appearing in front of the public to spin a narrative or deflect accountability. That directness set the tone for everything that followed and gave her words an authenticity that landed with considerable force across the motorsports community. What makes Leah Martin's perspective on the IHRA situation uniquely compelling is the deeply personal history she carries into any conversation about the organization and the people at the center of its current controversy. She did not observe the inner workings of IHRA from a comfortable distance. She lived them from the inside, navigating the daily chaos and complexity of leading the organization through a period that she herself has described as simultaneously exciting, challenging, and exhausting. That experience gives her commentary a texture and credibility that no outside observer can replicate. Her own departure from the organization was not a quiet or dignified one by any measure. She was let go in an extremely public manner, without any explanation offered to her, an explanation she has stated openly that she still has not received to this day. One of the most striking elements of Leah Martin's public statement was what she deliberately chose not to do. She made explicitly clear at the outset that she was not appearing before the public to defend every decision made within the organization, nor to excuse the situation that had resulted in so much frustration and uncertainty for so many people who had invested their time, money, and passion into IHRA. That disclaimer was not a rhetorical formality. It was a substantive signal about the nature of the statement she intended to make and the limits she was placing on her own defense of the people and decisions involved. Martin's willingness to acknowledge mistakes and poor decisions before defending intentions gave the charitable portions of her statement a weight they would not have carried if she had arrived as an uncritical apologist for the organization she once led. A significant portion of Leah Martin's statement focused on painting a portrait of the man at the center of the IHRA controversy. A portrait that was careful to separate intention from execution while refusing to use one as a complete excuse for the other. She described sitting through countless meetings, investment pitches, and hundreds of conversations with racers, track owners, and promoters, watching someone she described as genuinely wanting to say yes to people who were asking for help. The picture she drew was of a person driven by passion rather than process, someone who made decisions quickly and whose belief in an idea could become total and consuming once it took hold. She was candid about the consequences of that approach, acknowledging openly that due diligence did not always keep pace with the speed of decision-making and that the results of that imbalance were real and sometimes damaging. But she was equally direct in expressing her belief that the intention driving those decisions was never to hurt the sport. It was to invest in it, grow it, and support the racers he genuinely cared about. The nuance she was reaching for was the possibility that good intentions and poor decisions can coexist in the same person simultaneously, and that recognizing one does not require pretending the other didn't happen. Perhaps the most pointed dimension of Leah Martin's statement was her willingness to name a dynamic that often goes unacknowledged in public postmortems of organizational failures: the presence and influence of people whose motivations were far less principled than those she was willing to extend charitable interpretation toward. She described witnessing individuals within the industry whose driving forces were financial gain, personal power, control, and the pursuit of notoriety at any cost. Her description of watching these individuals take advantage of genuine generosity and a sincere desire to benefit the sport was delivered without naming names but with the unmistakable conviction of someone who had watched it happen firsthand. This element of her statement added a layer of complexity to the overall narrative surrounding IHRA's troubles that the loudest voices in the public conversation had largely left unexamined. Leah Martin made a point of insisting that the IHRA controversy, as significant and painful as it was for everyone directly affected, was not the biggest story the moment had to offer. The bigger story, in her telling, was the state of motorsports as a whole, an industry she described as struggling across every discipline simultaneously, fighting for sponsors in an environment where television coverage was shrinking, tracks were disappearing, costs were continuing their relentless upward climb, and participation was under increasing pressure. The IHRA situation, she argued, was one symptom of a much larger condition that the industry had not yet fully reckoned with. Running beneath several of the most important arguments in Leah Martin's statement was an uncomfortable financial reality that most public commentators on the IHRA situation had either avoided or addressed only obliquely. She pointed out with unmistakable directness that significant resources had been invested into motorsports at a time when very few others were willing to make that kind of commitment, and that a meaningful portion of that investment had gone directly back to racers. That observation was not offered as a reason to forgive everything that had gone wrong. It was offered as a piece of factual context that she believed the public conversation had largely glossed over in its rush to assign blame. The financial dimension of the story also surfaced in her expression of genuine belief that the people owed money, racers and staff, would ultimately be paid what they were owed. That statement carried weight precisely because it came from someone with no obvious reason to extend that kind of charitable prediction given her own unresolved and unexplained departure from the organization. Whether that belief proves accurate will eventually be determined by events rather than statements, but the fact that she was willing to say it publicly reflected a conviction that the cynics in the conversation had not fully accounted for in their assessments of where things stood. Despite the personal pain embedded throughout her statement, the public dismissal, the unexplained termination, the social media attacks, Leah Martin arrived at a conclusion about her time with IHRA that surprised many of the people following the controversy most closely. She stated without hesitation that she would do it all over again, not because everything went right, but because of the relationships she built, the experience she gained, and the people she encountered along the way. It was the kind of answer that sounds simple on the surface but carries considerable emotional weight when measured against the full context of what she endured. When the full weight of Leah Martin's statement is taken in as a complete piece rather than parsed for individual quotes and reactions, what emerges is a challenge directed at the entire motorsports industry to do better, not just in how it handles organizational crises, but in how it treats the people willing to invest in it, how it protects those who show up with genuine intentions, and how it guards against those whose motivations are less principled. Whether that account produces the reflection and course correction Martin was calling for, or whether it simply becomes another chapter in a controversy that the sport's loudest voices move on from as quickly as they arrived, will reveal something important about the character of an industry that, by her own telling, is at a crossroads it cannot afford to navigate poorly.